Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful Wednesday's edition of Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of our conversation. It's going to be open line until 1 o'clock and then after the headline news at 1. Robert Scotland and Mr. Leo Anglin, the Commandant and Lieutenant Commander, will be our guests as we talk about the Cayman Islands Coast Guard. There's a recruitment drive, so we're going to share it with you. But until then, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today. Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. The phone lines are open, 949-8037, or toll free with the compliments of Flow, 1-800-534-8255. If you've been following the proceedings in the Legislative Assembly, if you had a chance even to listen to Mr. Art this morning on For the Record, you may have a comment that you want to share. Certainly want to hear from you. Give us a shout. But you can also talk about any other thing that's on your mind. I always believe it's important, not just for civics education, civic engagement, but for the populace to not only know what is happening then and there, what potentially may be going to happen going forward, but historically, what has happened. We can look with hindsight to say 2020. We can perhaps extrapolate and make some assessment and consider what could happen, knowing our history, knowing what is transpiring presently can help us to inform our decisions and our judgment now and for the future. So share with us, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. As we shared, it's going to be open line until 1 p.m. So an opportune time for us to share our thoughts about any and everything. And then, of course, we get a chance to talk about the recruitment drive for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard. You may have a question you want to share along. Well, send it through to us. Call directly if you want. Either way, be a part and be engaged, involved, and informed. Now, it's reflecting today on technology and recognizing how sometimes not in jest, even though it may be said with a smile and a jovial nature, but in all sincerity, how we become dependent on technology. How sometimes we try to leverage the technology, but not always, in the most efficient, effective, productive, and profitable manner, whether that is measured in terms of dollars and cents, or whether it is about the economy of time and the like. But if we were to think of where we are now as a result, they say necessity is the mother of invention, of us having, in many instances, the scenarios and circumstances imposed upon us not by our own doing, some not voluntarily, but by the actions of governments, being informed by decisions of perhaps those that they rely on for good counsel and advice. Sometimes, in the absence of open, honest, timely dialogue, things, as well intentioned as they may be, things go awry, they get misconstrued. Sometimes they may be maliciously, set in motion in order to bring about certain outcomes. But having said that, if we look at where we're finding ourselves relative to employment, or relative to education, and then relative to the economy, we recognize that very few of us would have said, "Yep, I could have foreseen this coming." Now there were some pundits, even one or two, to our talk show, for less than a year now, who have been, if you want to say, warning or at least weary of things coming down the pipeline. Some even went as far as to say, listen, it's going to be a recession. And they were not only talking about a deficit in terms of the financial sense, but perhaps the social economy and the inability of the infrastructure to respond, the ill prepared nature of the populace. And if you want to engage in that, not so much from a pensive, philosophical, reflective mode, but a proactive stance as to what are we going to do post September. I mean, this is the end of July right now. August is going to be a blur, and September is going to come in, full steam. Well, what does that mean as a strike point for us as we redefine ourselves, our actions, and for some of us, it may be that we no longer try to re-enter the workplace as employees. It may mean that we no longer try to continue our businesses or to exercise that entrepreneurial nature. But for others, there is that opportunity, and they see the challenges that lie ahead and they embrace it and they move forward with the intent that they're going to be more profitable financially and otherwise. Some may heed what they feel has been a heavy burden to shoulder alone and invite and accept assistance, partnership, collaboration, cooperation from others to do more than just, look after the bottom line when it comes to the economics. Others may see, wow, this is it now. I can make a killing, and they'll jump on it. Well, to each his own, they say. But where are you? What is your thought? And has your mindset as yet been defined, redefined, or are you like many, still confused and weary, still a bit conflicted, and in your unresolved thinking and thoughts, you're not quite sure, how the day is going to end, much less how tomorrow will start? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255, and share your thoughts with us as we look at what is around us. Now, I'm very grateful to the many individuals who have either watched all or most or significant parts of the proceedings in the Legislative Assembly and who have shared, their insight, the snippets of what they're seeing so far. One or two may have even ventured in, to those hallowed halls and observed the proceedings within the Legislative Assembly. And I share that because of all of the, I've probably now approaching close to, 100 individuals, as well north of 90 people who have so far weighed in and say, hey, I've got a thought on this, and it's great because it's a small number, but it's a good round number. You got 100 people giving you an opinion. Survey says, well, I can't use it as an empirical sort of, analysis, but if 100 people weigh in and give you a perspective, and of that 100, you can get a very conclusive response in one direction or another, it may be, at the very least, indicative. It may be instructive nonetheless. And the one good thing is that all but one individual shared that this is historical, in that here is something that is, moving down the pipeline, and seemingly, as one individual sort of put it succinctly, driven by what would seem to be, a subset of a population who want to sort of carve out privileged and special positions and the like. Now, is that what it is? Or is this a case where we have not evolved sufficiently as mankind to understand that things have changed, and they have changed a long time ago, but we are somehow not cognizant of being inclusive, accommodating, accepting, tolerant? Or is it, as one gentleman shared sort of early last evening, that sometimes we don't see what is before us because, one, we don't look, and two, when we do, we don't wish to look, with our eyes open. We still have our minds as well as our lids tightly closed. And when something happens, we may, after the fact, he says, after the fact, comment. But even then, not only is it too late, but it's so long after the fact that it has little or no consequence. Well, we're going to pause shortly, take a quick break, invite you to gather your thoughts, test our phone lines, let us know that all is well in the land of the living, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
King Sports Center Art of Fun Summer Camp is back. From July 7th to August 7th. Now, in its 16th year, the Art of Fun Camp is ideal for kids aged 5 through 10 with activities from football, basketball, dodgeball, squash, rock climbing, arts and craft dance, singing, and more. Your child can stay cool while having fun in a safe and secure environment. For more info, email kings.brebanks@gmail.com. That's kings.brebanks@gmail.com or call 946-KING. Like King Sports Center on Facebook, and you can also find them on Instagram or call 946-5464. King Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Hey, I'm a little bit physically distant from Miss Susan than I was yesterday, making the life a little bit harder for her. But boy, she's gracious and I'm grateful to her. As we go to the phones, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
I'm fine. I just wanted to comment about the post office services in Georgetown.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, they announced that the post office in central Georgetown will be open between 12 and 1 every day. It was closed completely before that. So I went down there today at about 12:45. And it appears that what they mean by open is just have the front doors open. There's no service whatsoever.
What then do you think that the can should be doing now, especially given where we are in this particular scenario?
Well, I mean, what seems to be the case is that they're opening the front doors so that people that have inside post boxes can open their boxes, but there's no services provided. You can't do anything. Post a letter, send registered mail. You know, you can't do anything. All you can do is check your box inside. Now, you know, I don't understand why, now that we've got over the worst of this coronavirus, why on earth is that post office not fully operational? Does not make sense. You've got all these postal staff presumably sitting at home on full pay, and I don't see any reason why they can't be at work and have that central post office open, because it means that I had to go or then drive all the way up to the airport, queue up for half an hour just to post a letter. It doesn't make sense to me.
I hear you, but then if you, because of my perception of your not only inside intellect but your willingness to engage publicly and get people thinking and talking, could we also draw the analogy that what sense did the curfew, quarantine, and the lockdown, the imprisonment of all of us in our homes, but even more so, the police helicopter continually flying constantly up and down over people's houses all hours of the night, looking for the boogerman, the virus. I mean, from the sky, can the helicopter see the virus? What about, as I've heard from a number of people in all the districts, the police firearms unit patrolling their neighborhoods with spotlights 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, shining into people's yards. Now, are we trying to make everybody safe? Is closing the post office a continuing effort in that? Just like having a helicopter fly 500, 600, 1,000 feet in the air constantly, helping to keep everybody? I mean, isn't it one and the same in all in Sunday?
Well, you know, I fail to understand why they can't open. I mean, everything else is being relaxed, and I don't see any reason why they can't, if they can staff the airport post office and a couple of post offices in the districts, why they can't staff the central post office, because they've got the staff, and what are they doing if they're not working? They're all on full pay. It does not make sense.
Well, how do you know
the Postmaster General needs to get, get cracking and get that post office open and provide the service that the public are paying for.
Right. But how do you know that they're not working?
Well, then, where are they if they're not in the post office? Tell me that.
Well,
I mean, you can't listen. You can't sell stamps from your house. You can't take boxes, registered mail. You can't accept parcels. You can't do none of that from home. It's not the type of service that could be provided by sitting in front of a computer screen. It has to be in person. So there's no reason why the central post office in Georgetown, the main post office, should not be open. And I think the Postmaster General should be ashamed of herself for not getting this organised. It's really a great disservice to the public, and it's very inconvenient because Georgetown is very busy, and if everybody's got to go to one post office at the airport, it's just making life extremely difficult when there's no real substantive reason why that post office cannot be open. And I thought it was going to be open 1 hour a day, but it isn't even that. It's not open at all, except they open the doors to check for the mailboxes inside to be looked at. So really, I really think the Postmaster General needs to get cracking and organise that post office to be reopened on a full-time basis. I don't see any reason why not. There's plenty of other businesses operating full-time. You have the supermarkets with people, the cashiers facing the public every minute of the day. And in the post office there, in the central post office in Georgetown, the desks are 6 feet apart. and there's a glass partition between the cashiers and the public, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't reopen. So they really need to get their act together and get on with it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing. The question that maybe we'll ask is it the Postmaster General, as you said, where the blame lies, or is that somewhere further up the chain, our heads of department and the senior level personnel just taking instructions that come, and where eventually does that level of accountability and response, sort of lie? Is it that responsibility in the super head of the civil service? Is it in the political head? Hey, what do you think? And with that in mind, as we look at civics and civic engagement, is this an opportune time to redefine the way we operate our society, both from the perspective of governance, but also the rights and responsibilities? Now, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Give us, your thoughts. Well, with that, let's join the caller. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, how are you, my friend?
All right. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello?
Okay. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello?
All right.
Hello?
Hi. How are you?
Not bad yourself. Great. How are you today?
Very excellent, man. Glad to hear from you.
Nice to hear you too. Just two short things. I shan't call his last name, but the last caller that called in, my good friend Roger, as I said, I won't call his last name, but I agree wholeheartedly with what he had to say. It is a total embarrassment. Some of the civil servants, yes, I agree. Some you can't have everybody back to work yet because we still have to be we have to err on the side of caution. But in terms of the post office, listen, it's a total disgrace. They should all be back to work, and you may have to limit the amount of staff. Yes, perhaps not all the staff complement, but you can't tell me that in Savannah, in my Savannah, if I go to buy an actual revenue stamp because I want to incorporate a company on a Monday, I got to wait till Thursday because the post office are open 2 days a week. Listen, we're now getting this virus has now started to have a mental effect on lots of people, and this has got to stop. We've got to get back to some kind of order and normalcy. The post offices, and I'm making a direct call to the Postmistress General, get those post offices open and running to some degree of normalcy effective today. This is George Ebanks. Number two, I listened to the debate last night on the radio of the debate on the marriage equality, domestic partnership law. Hello?
Right. Yes, now, I'm listening to you. Yeah.
Now, the premier, a few months ago, there was a little prankster. He since behaved himself. He had a little pass on a WhatsApp cursing out the governor's wife about how the governor's wife was doing something in England, all kinds of stuff, which was a pile of baloney. And the premier said these words. And these words are now directed to that same minister who I heard last night speaking about the domestic partnership law. But these are the words of the premier. And then after I repeat these words, I shall then hang up because these words are directed directly to that minister who spoke about the domestic partnership law last night. The premier said about that prankster, I have never been more embarrassed in my life to be a Caymanian. So those words are now directed to the Honorable Minister of Health and his debate last night about the domestic partnership law when he talked about the moon and the sun and the 6 to 9 position and people overreacting to sex because of the full moon. I shall hang up now because if I say any more, I shall have to say more than what the premier said about being embarrassed about being a Caymanian. So you have a good day, Green.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that thought. And as the caller sort of referenced it, plays right into the comments and some of the comments I've received from others who talked about this particular debate being historical. Got into a lot of sort of insight based on past discussions that came before the House, the action and at times the inaction of their duly elected officials. Some waiting for the UK through its ordering council to send through what we were either unwilling or sort of ill-prepared to implement ourselves. Some even allege, well, they won't do it. That way they can say it wasn't us, it was them. One or two accused, our leadership of not necessarily having the fortitude to stand and be counted. Now, maybe it's the time, maybe it's the particular age in which we find ourselves. Maybe it is also that notion that for many it is not a case of having to be able to know what to do because they themselves are conflicted and confused. Well, that makes for a healthy debate. But like the caller again was sharing about the post office, could we perhaps invite you to consider take a few things, whether it's filing of documents before courts, whether it's notifications coming out of the planning apparatus, the Central Planning Authority, the Planning Department, or other things that may require, in this day and age, physical possession of stamps to be affixed to documents. Maybe the way documents are to be sent, received, and acknowledged, and the like. Could we find a way to still ensure government receives the appropriate revenue, to make sure people have, followed the right process, protocols, and procedures, and equally to ensure that people are able to be informed and advised to ensure that their interests are secure and protected? Is there a way that we can move beyond some of the things that we did long ago and up until a few weeks ago when 6 months or however long it's been that we were all locked down? Could now be the opportune time. Well, let's quickly pause and take a short break. I invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You've spent a lot of time with your kitchen appliances lately. Did you realize just how old or out of date they really are? If you're thinking of upgrading or replacing your old kitchen appliances, there is only one place to go: Brand Source Home Gallery. They're having a 15% off sale on GE appliances this month. That's right, save 15% off on all GE appliances now through the end of July. You will love the savings and the look of your fresh new appliances from Brand Source Home Gallery in Industrial Park on Dorsey Drive. Call 623-5000 for more information.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Good and cleaner.
A reminder of the standard 10% off prepay on wedding dresses and gowns, also household items, drapes, bedspreads, area rugs, and more. 10% prepaid discount can also apply to all wearing apparel, $17 and up. These discounts at all our stores: Savannah Countryside, 946-1884, Elgin Avenue, 949-2452, 337 Eastern Avenue, drive-through, rain or shine, 949-7104. Call our seamstress, Miss Kathy, at 949-2452, Elgin Avenue, for all your adjustments and repairs. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good. Your Radio Cayman 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit www.caymannational.com for up-to-date information for all your financial needs and follow us on social media.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. It's open line, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. 949-8037, or you can call us toll free at 1-800-534-8255. When the clock, we get a chance to talk about the recruitment drive for the Canadian Coast Guard and a chance to learn more about it and understand some of the things where we are. But in the meantime, you may want to weigh in on this whole scenario. And like the last, two callers in particular, I'm grateful for the quick message that came in electronically from a listener who says, well, we need to sort of stop pointing fingers and blaming. We need to look at the whole sort of failures, as it were, systemically, and suggest that if we were to consider how, for some, male the postal services, not just here, but just globally, that perhaps it is one of those things that we're holding on to that perhaps in today's environment isn't necessarily the most efficient means, but is it still necessary? Can it be devolved in some ways? Can we go about it and redefine it? How many of us still write letters? When we do, is it something as an exercise that we call quaint? Is it that we can do something better? Now, as a quick aside, another message came through and said, why is it that we can't have access to more of the government services online? For example, you want to know what is happening in the planning department, what applications are before, what applications are being considered for approval, not after the fact, but when it's ongoing. But what about you yourself? If you're involved, can that information be accessible as if you were there physically in person? Could not all the documents and the supporting material from the applicants to objectors, all the interested parties, why can't that be fully available online? So whether you're seated somewhere in the Cayman Islands or you just happen to be a student and elsewhere around the globe, or maybe you're someone who owns a property here, or you're just curious, you want to know, like very much is the case in the UK and other places. Could we not get to that point? No. Is it an expensive ordeal, or is it something that we haven't prioritized? Because it's how it is. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. It's open line as we share your thoughts with us. And again, I'm trying to embrace technology. Many of us, in trying to do so, are learning as we go, trying to figure out what works, best, or certainly what worked better than whatever it is that we were doing previously. And the most obvious sort of complete is that for many, we believed our internet speeds and our physical equipment that we had was sufficient to do the job that we thought. But the minute we engaged with video and the like, we realized that we didn't have sufficient, bandwidth. We didn't have sufficient, amount of stuff to get our data where it needed to go for us to do what we thought would be, two strings and connected to a CAN, and we were up and running. Well, not as easy as we would think. But is it as difficult as some have, made it out to be? Well, again, are we working for a system, or is the system working against us? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. It's something I think that we look at, and as both callers reference, they are increasingly, there are increasingly many frustrations that people are now beginning to acknowledge. They probably were not that, willing initially. Perhaps they were still a bit weary, a bit perplexed, and perhaps just very accommodating. But as the mental anguish sets in, as the economic realities, creep in, people are starting to say, well, why not this? Why not that? No? Perhaps that may be a sign of a very, very, very healthy, democracy that could emerge if people are able and are willing to weigh in publicly in a responsible, respectful manner, but one that isn't prepared to shy away from, sometimes what may obviously befall them because they've decided to go against the green, as it were. Well, we've heard many choruses that sound great, but the soloists can be exceptional as well. So just because everything is in unison doesn't mean that it's beneficial. The lone wolf, as it were, doesn't always have to be the sort of outlier as first appear. Well, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. As you share your thoughts with us, as you consider where we are in relation to what we do and what we should be doing, how we should be doing, as more and more people start to appreciate that it's not one of those things that you just do for part and parcel. It's something that you do collectively in order to make things that much perhaps more beneficial for all of us. And it is perhaps for some the idea that as they go about whatever it is that they're planning to do, there is no as one person is weighing in and messaging, there is no sort of one right way sometimes to move forward, as this person shares. But what has been unfortunate is that there is this glaring absence of people to weigh in generally. So take, for instance, the debate on the domestic partnerships bill. Now, timely, perhaps not. Necessary, definitely. The challenge, how do we get the public to understand beyond the emotional, and obvious sentiments being expressed, that this is an issue that the world over is being asked to acknowledge. Cayman is no different. It's not about getting with the times. It's about being accommodating and accepting. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. And so you get a chance, to go to our news shortly. When we come back, we will, as promised, have the opportunity to speak to the commandant for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, Mr. Robert Scotland, to share with us. So, Susan, if we're ready, are we heading to the news? And when we come back, we certainly want you to be a part of our discussion. If you were able to listen to For the Record on Monday morning, Mr. Scotland and Mr. Anglin both were present with Mr. Art, and very informed, engaged in lively discussion. And it's going to be an opportunity for many of us now to see sort of the redefine Cayman as we look at a number of things. So perhaps we learn some new things from today's discussion. Perhaps we get a chance to appreciate the importance of what is being proposed. Perhaps it's something that may allow you to weigh in for future discussions in a much, much more informed way. Let's pause and take a break. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The Department of Education Services has issued a reminder to all parents and guardians of students in the government school system that the 2020-2021 academic year commences on August 26th and that registration for students is ongoing. The Education Law 2016 requires a parent or legal guardian of any child of compulsory school age to register and enroll that child for full-time education suitable to the child's requirements, either by attendance at school from the first day of the school calendar or otherwise. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A woman has been killed by a great white in the first fatal shark attack on record in the U.S. state of Maine. The woman was swimming near Bailey Island, close to the city of Portland, on Monday when she was attacked. She was 63-year-old Julie Hollowach, a recently retired fashion executive from New York. And the Duchess of Sussex has asked a court to keep her friends who gave a magazine interview anonymous in her legal action against the Mail on Sunday. She is suing the newspaper's publisher for breach of privacy and copyright infringement after it reproduced parts of a letter sent to her father in 2018. The publisher, which denies the claims, argued her friends could be witnesses, saying the letter was first referenced in their interview. Meghan said they had a privacy right. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Green Turtle. Modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today, it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today. This is an important announcement from Customs and Border Control. Due to a record number of imported goods and the potential for inclement weather due to hurricane season, customers are required to collect their packages as soon as possible. If you are using an agent to clear your goods, please ensure that you have completed the appointment of agent form and send it to your agent 48 hours prior to your goods arriving. For persons self-clearing goods, it will be necessary for you to log in to CBC's online portal by visiting www.cbc.gov.ky and register at least 48 hours before your shipment arrives.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. Very, very grateful now for the company of Mr. Robert Scotland, the Commandant for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard. Good afternoon, Mr. Scotland. How are you today, sir? Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks. How are you? And good afternoon to the listening audience.
All right, very grateful, man. glad that I able to have this opportunity to chat with you, and it's an amazing time, I think, within our history to see how we move forward. So thanks very much for coming. I was initially expecting you to be remote, but it's good that you were able to grace us in the studio.
Yeah, I had a meeting next door, so.
Not a far walk, is it? Right. Well, for those who are listening, I'm going to be very, very mindful of your time, and you are more than welcome to use as much of it as you wish, but I certainly don't want to impose any longer than you have need. For the Coast Guard, maybe you could start by first, giving us a preview of, what is it, an overview of the Coast Guard? I mean, what are we talking about for some who may not quite understand just yet?
Okay, so the Coast Guard, as you know, we were with you probably about just over a year ago when we first went live. But what the Coast Guard, the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, will be taking over the responsibilities for the maritime safety and security of the Cayman Islands, which is currently being delivered now by the Royal Cayman Islands Police Joint Marine Unit.
So what was originally sort of the police marine services aspect now will be the Coast Guard. Is it in the bottom of all of them?
Yes, sir. They both the law enforcement aspect of I guess you would call it policing of the seas. That will be one of the responsibilities of the Coast Guard. Sorry. In addition to that, we will also be taking over the maritime safety, which is a huge component, and it's an aspect that, while it's been addressed in the past, there's definitely room for improvement.
Okay. Now, when we talk about the maritime safety and the like, for those who may not fully help us to appreciate, I mean, are you talking just a general patrolling of the coastline? Are we venturing out further ashore when ships are in distress? To what extent?
Okay. The maritime safety, if you will, it's a pretty large umbrella. It covers both near-shore safety activity, which basically entails responses to calls for service from persons in distress or boats in distress. That can range from a person who's been out on a jet ski and has experienced difficulties to a person fishing in the North Sound whose engine fails to start and they can't get in. That also extends to persons who are outside the reef on parts of the island that have reefs, or as you know, those parts of the island that don't have reefs. People venture out 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. So those are what we would call our near-shore maritime safety initiatives.
Okay. Now, from that perspective, how far offshore would our Coast Guard venture?
Well, as a flag state, if you will, and for those that don't know what that means, the Cayman Islands is actually a part of the Red Ensign Group, which is a consortium of countries, if you will, within the overseas territories who are certified to register vessels. With that responsibility, or with that privilege, comes certain responsibilities. Those responsibilities extend to providing search and rescue capabilities for our search and rescue region, if you will. That search and rescue region is quite large. It extends just about 200 miles to our west, a little over 100 miles to our east, 100 miles south of us, and north of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, probably going out to about 24 miles.
And with that sort of thing now, our legal territorial limits from the maritime perspective would be what?
Our territorial waters, as they're known, is 12 miles from the coastline of all of our islands.
Okay. And would there be any sort of future plans to consider extending that beyond that limit currently?
The government has it within their preview that they can identify what's known as the Exclusive Economic Zone, or the EEZ, which entails basically fishing rights, both on the surface and undersea mining. But pretty much everything within what I mentioned before is our rescue region. We're responsible for either providing a direct response search and rescue wise, or coordinating the search and rescue efforts of vessels or other countries who are assisting in that operation.
Okay. And then in addition to sort of ocean-going vessels or craft, and like, would we at any point considering expanding the fleet to include maybe aviation patrol, helicopters, similar to what we see other Coast Guards utilizing?
Well, from the aviation aspect, we currently partner with the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. They continue to provide the aerial support for the island. As relates to a larger vessel, recognizing that where our international obligations and responsibilities lay, yes, we will be acquiring a fit-for-purpose, what we call extended endurance patrol craft at some point in the future. All of those are subject to budgetary constraints and proper planning around what we're going to get, ensuring that it's fit for purpose. The number of crew that we have, the number of staff that we have is actually able to crew the vessel.
And then that sort of, if we can, I certainly want to be able to ask you later on when people are looking at possible careers, because if you love the sea and you can spend 5 minutes or 5 weeks, it's just a joy. It's just a wonderful place to be. So we can ask people what sort of extended periods of time of being deployed at sea. But in the interim, the marine sort of patrol aspects from the aerial perspective, helicopters and otherwise, that will remain with the police, and that's the intent going forward.
Yes, sir. The aerial support will continue to be provided by the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. As you know, they currently have 2 helicopters. It wouldn't really be value for money for us to go and purchase one for ourselves. Again, we have to recognize the limitations and the constraints of what not only the Coast Guard budget, but also the budget that the island has.
Exactly. And I guess maybe this may be outside of your purview, and I don't wish to put you in that sort of position, but nonetheless, I was just curious as to whether at any point in time it would be not only opportune but advisable to put that sort of responsibility and patrol aspect in the hands of the Coast Guard and away from the policing.
I mean, we can't take it totally off the table, and again, it's basically driven by what the demands for service are. I mean, if we see a huge spike in calls for persons in distress or vessels in distress with varying ranges offshore, we would have to seriously look at what our capabilities are. As you know, there's also a huge movement underway to look at unmanned aerial vehicles. Those are being explored by various Coast Guards and navies around the world for the exact same purpose of search and rescue.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. And this is where I think, I wanted, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I want people to appreciate that a Coast Guard, well, if I'm sound a bit, very, very much favorable towards it, then forgive me, but it is rewarding, it's exciting, it is beneficial, especially to an island nation where 2 steps and you're in the water. So as people thinking of, well, should I consider this a career choice? They have so many wonderful opportunities to not only be rewarded, but as they contribute to serve their country, they can have a very fulfilling career. But that's just me, as a very jubilant cheerleader, as it were.
No, thank you for that. And I mean, that's primarily the reason why we're here today. We're actually here to push and to get the message out that the Cayman Islands Coast Guard is actually now recruiting. We're looking for young, keen energetic locals, Caymanians, male or female, who are actually, one, they want to contribute back to their country. Two, they love the water. They love being on the water. They're not afraid of, a bit of hard work. And, lastly, it's actually an opportunity for them to be a part of history. This is the island's first Coast Guard. The recruiting that we're undergoing now will entail delivering, it'll be recruit class 1 of 2020, but it'll also be recruit class 1 of the Coast Guard. I mean, you have an opportunity to be a part of history. 20, 30 years from now, when you're sitting on your porch talking to your kids and your grandkids, you'll be able to say, well, I was actually a founding member of that.
That's an honor. Now, with that, Mr. Scott, as Commandant, I hope I said that correctly, right? Is it that, well, tell us what we're looking for. I mean, tell us the age range. Is it just Caymanians? Are we going to limit it to just West Bayers? I mean, tell me about the recruitment drive. What are we looking for?
Okay, so again, as I said, we're looking for young Caymanians, ideally between 18 and 35 years of age, either male or female. High school diploma or equivalent. You'll have to be able to pass a basic numeracy and literacy test, and then there is a physical endurance assessment that goes in there. Key requirement is you have to be able to swim. You are in the Coast Guard and you're expected to save lives in the water. So if you're not able to swim and save yourself, you're not going to be very helpful with somebody in the water who's found themselves in difficulty. The physical fitness side of it is it's not excessive. It's you have to be able to run a mile in 13 minutes. You have to be able to do 25 push-ups and 25 sit-ups each within 1 minute. And then lastly, again, it's a 200-yard swim within 12 minutes.
Okay. And with the water conditions, or?
Pardon?
That swim, just open water swim off Savile Beach, or do I drop you in the North Sound and tell you swim up to Booba Key?
Well, the swim assessment will actually be conducted at the Marine base. We have a basin there. It's enclosed, so you don't need to worry about large fish coming to get you. But yeah, that's where the assessment will be conducted. And there's just really two other key criteria. Because of the nature of the job, we really can't take you if you're legally deaf or if you're colorblind.
Okay, but if you just got poor design choices, that doesn't matter, right? Once you're not legally colorblind. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure my cousin's going to play now. Some of us don't know how to dress. No, it's if you love the water, man, you find the Coast Guard. At least again, I just think it's a fantastic opportunity, and as you should, to make history. Now you said 18 to 35. I thought initially some of the written publications may have said a different age range. I want to make sure I didn't misunderstand. Is it 18 to 35?
Yes, sir. There was a typo at the first publication, which has been corrected on both the print media and on the social medias. So yes, it is 18 to 35. Perfect.
And again, just for clarity, anybody that would fit that age range and the criteria you initially set out and satisfy, once they're Caymanian, permanent resident or legally resident on island, are they eligible to apply?
Yes, sir. Caymanians.
Okay. So Caymanian. All right. We'll see. Now, can you maybe share with us thus far whether we've received any applicants? If so, any particular information in terms of the numbers, the demographics, anything at all? Or is it too early for us to be anxious about hearing about that stuff?
We're still putting together that information. What I can tell you is that, so far we've received over 60 applications, and those numbers are growing. We've been seeing a lot of expressions of interest on the social media sites, a lot of interaction, a lot of questions back and forth. So we're hoping that we'll go more than 60. Unfortunately, we only have about 10 vacancies at the moment for a seaman recruit.
Mm-hmm. So you'll receive the applicants and then review, and how would that that process? You're looking initially for a maximum of 10 presently?
Yes, sir. We have vacancies for 10 at the moment.
Okay, and then presumably, then let's make it easy for me. We get 100 people who've applied. What would be the process? Would you then go through and assess them all, or shortlist them, and in order to get somewhere closer to that 10? What would happen?
Yes, sir. We'll undertake a shortlisting process. The first bit, if you will be the paper sift, which looks at the application. Do you meet the criteria that we've established? Those that don't meet the criteria, as the word says, basically paper sift, they'll be excluded. After that, what we will be doing is your basic vision and hearing test.
Okay.
If we don't lose any person through that assessment, then we'll do an academic assessment, the basic numeracy and literacy test, which there are established pass marks that you have to achieve. Persons who are successful in that will then undergo the physical fitness or the physical endurance testing. And if you're successful through that, then the last bit will be an interview before a panel.
Okay. If I may ask, and only because honestly, I'm excited to hear that we're moving forward with this. So if you are present, you might hopefully share my sincerity even more so. But excuse me, listen to you, help us to understand. So if I ask or say anything and needs correcting, clarifying, or you feel it's off, I would ask respectfully that you guide me, because I want to help the information to be as accurate and as timely. In this process, as you evaluate, starting with the paper sift as you referenced, through eventually the interviewing and assessments, have we determined how that's going to be conducted? Who is going to be? Is it the ordinary civil service process where somewhere in the personnel, HR, wherever it is done? How is that, and who is that that's going to be doing that?
So the portfolio of the civil service is actually helping us with this recruitment drive, and what I'd like to say is a special thanks to them. I mean, they've been awesome in terms of their support, their advice, their guidance so far. The process, they've conducted interviews for fire, prison, and most of the other uniform services. So they have expertise in this area, and that's what we're tapping into.
Okay. So at some point, there'll be an initial paper sift done somewhere along the line to get to that point. And then let's say you get to you're looking for the 10 and you got 20 people out of the 100. Go back to my initial example. They're looking pretty good. So we got to decide who this 10 is going to be. So we're going to move to that point. That interview panel, would it be similar to what may have transpired in the past relative to recruiting for some of the other positions in the civil service, where we've had panelists come from the different agencies across government or even the private sector to help to interview the applicants?
Yes, sir. We'll probably utilize the expertise of persons who are familiar with the unique nature of the maritime environment, if you will. We have the Cadet Corps has persons in there who are experienced both within the cadets, but also as former military officers in other jurisdictions. So we'll tap into the local expertise, if you will.
And obviously with that, because it's our waters, we'll perhaps ensure some of that local expertise is about our particular maritime environment as well.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay. Could we then, and I really appreciate not just your honesty and sincerity, your forthrightness, but if you don't mind, and Ms. Susan, forgive me for talking out of school, but we were, I don't know if the word I would be, what I would use, we were admiring you and Ms. Anglin's composure, your demeanor, your presence on Monday and every time since. Both of you, stellar examples. If we can say fine young men that we can look up to as a community. So, not just in uniform, but in and of yourselves. So, thank you for being of that stature. It's very, very admirable and encouraging, and it makes you feel good to point and say, look, see, upstanding people. So thank you for that, sir.
Thank you for that, sir. I think, we, both of us actually owe it, to our parents, to our grandparents, and to the community at large that, helped raise us. Growing up, if you stepped out of line, somebody spoke to you about it, and then you got home and your parents spoke to you about it, or your grandparents, in my case, would speak to you about it. So the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child is, we're examples of that, if you will.
Yeah, man. And I hope that, as we move forward with all our endeavors, that the people who are the faces, especially the visible faces in uniform, whether they're patrolling on the sea or whether they're driving, high-powered vehicles, as it were, that they continue to represent that way. And I don't say that to disparage anybody. But I share that to ask then, as we go through this whole process and we're looking at recruiting, could you help us to appreciate, once we get to that point, well, firstly, at what point are we expecting, the 10 successful applicants to begin training?
Well, we're hoping to commence training on the first full week in October.
Okay. And then with that in mind, I believe, you tell us, how long will that initial training last?
Okay, in basic training, if you will be for 8 weeks, and it's going to be an intense 8 weeks. We have a number of topics to cover within that 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. Those topics, or those areas, if you will basically be as follows. You have open water safety and survival, seamanship skills, maritime search and rescue procedures, various applicable laws and regulations that we're required to enforce, maritime law enforcement procedures, and vessel operations and maintenance.
Yeah, you want to make sure that when you're going to jump in your vessel, it's working, right?
Correct.
So basic mechanics and repair. With that, though, what sort of, when you splash, what sort of initially vessels are you going to be utilizing? I know you talk about the extended long range sometime in the future, but initially, the ribs, what are you going to be utilizing initially?
So we'll be taking over the vessels that the RCIPS currently have. They're well known around the island. They're 2 fast interceptors, a long-range vessel, which is Cayman Guardian. She's 65 foot in length, and the Cayman Defender, which is a 38-foot, near-shore patrol vessel. So for, I would say, over the next 18 months, those are primarily the vessels that we will be utilizing.
Okay, all right. And I know we're approaching a break, and there's 2 or 3 minutes as Ms. Susan cues. Mr. Scotland, I certainly want you to feel comfortable. I do recognize that sometimes, our schedules are sufficient, but if you have desire and, would very much, like to engage you further, if that's okay. A couple of the questions, give people a chance to understand more about the training process and how to apply. Would you have some more time to share with us?
Yes, sir, I can do that.
All right, thank you very much. We're speaking to the Commandant for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, Mr. Robert Scotland. We're going to pause shortly, take a quick break. When we come back, as we ask questions and engage and become informed, we want you to do likewise. If you have a question or comment you want to share, well, the invitation is there. When we come back, we'll ask Mr. Scotland, maybe he could expand a little bit further on that 8-week training. We're not going to ask anything that should not be shared publicly, but we will respect his answers. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Wharf is your only waterfront breakfast and lunch atmosphere along the shoreline. Starts at 7 a.m. with freshly squeezed juices, hot coffee, and your farm fresh eggs.
The unique sunset happy hour and dinner ambiance is your obvious choice for your waterfront dining. See you soon for salsa and boogie nights at the Wharf.
Follow us on Facebook to keep in the loop of all the happenings, and come and join us at the all-day waterfront experience on the 7 Mile Beach.
This coming Saturday, August 1st, tune in to CIG TV at 4 p.m. for a virtual concert showcasing the gold and silver medalists from the 2020 National Cultural Festival of the Arts, presented by the Department of Education Services. Witness performances from some of Cayman's most exceptional young talent in music, dance, and the spoken word. Follow them at Education Cayman on Instagram and Facebook for updates. Tune in to CIG TV or log on to CIG TV YouTube on Saturday, August 1st at 4 p.m. for the 2020 National Cultural Festival of the Arts Showcase.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This coming Saturday, August 1st, tune in to CIG TV at 4 p.m. for a virtual concert showcasing the gold and silver medalists from the 2020 National Cultural Festival of the Arts, presented by the Department of Education Services. Witness performances from some of Cayman's most exceptional young talent in music, dance, and the spoken word. Follow them at Education Cayman on Instagram and Facebook for updates. Tune in to CIG TV or log on to CIG TV YouTube on Saturday, August 1st at 4 p.m. for the 2020 National Cultural Festival of the Arts Showcase.
The Toyotathon 2020 event is going on now at Vamped Motors. Get our lowest prices of the year on a great selection of our most popular Toyotas with big savings on the new CHR Hybrid, the 7-seater Rush, the adventurous RAV4, the rugged Hilux truck, and more. You can drive home an amazing deal. Save up to $5,000. Take the full discount, get cash back, upgrade your vehicle with your savings. It's all your choice during our huge Toyotathon sales event going on through July. Don't miss out. Come to Vamped Motors for your new Toyota. Let's go places.
Mommy, have you been taking your medication?
No, I think I forgot to pick it up.
Your doctor prescribed it for a reason, so you should be taking it regularly.
I know, TD. Thanks for the reminder.
If you are elderly or vulnerable and need your prescription delivered to your home, contact the Health Services Authority Pharmacy at 949-8600. Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky or call 949-8600.
The 8:12 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center. Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center is your one-stop shop for all of your sewing and alterations, fabrics, household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customercare@superstitch.com.ky. Super Stitch, located 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road, is still offering the best prices in town.
This is an important announcement from Customs and Border Control. Due to a record number of imported goods and the potential for inclement weather due to hurricane season, customers are required to collect their packages as soon as possible. If you are using an agent to clear your goods, please ensure that you have completed the appointment of agent form and send it to your agent 48 hours prior to your goods arriving. For persons self-clearing goods, it will be necessary for you to log in to CBC's online portal by visiting www.cbc.gov.ky and register at least 48 hours before your shipment arrives.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And a special thanks to Mr. Robert Scotland, the Commandant for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, for joining us. And as we went to the break, Mr. Scotland, really appreciate you being so amenable and very favorable with your time, helping us to appreciate the recruitment drive that's ongoing for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard. If you could just quickly recap, now the recruitment drive is for those between the ages of 18 to 35, Caymanians, permanent residents, all who are legally resident in Cayman?
The recruitment is for young Caymanians.
Okay, you know what? Let me leave that. I won't ask that. Put you that. Given that, now, how and where and under what sort of conditions for those potential applicants they want to apply, how do they go about applying? We'll come back to some of the other things first, but just maybe somebody has how much time they want to apply now. What do they need to do to apply?
Okay. all you need to do is go to www.recruitment.gov.ky. The application forms, well, the advert is on there. It's Coast Guard Recruit. You click on that link. The application, it'll take you to the web page with the criteria. The application form is on there as well as the job description. You fill it out and then you email it to the address that's provided on that form on that website.
Okay, and as you've emphasized, we just want to reiterate, male or female. So it doesn't matter if it's your daughter, your son, your aunt, or your uncle. Hey, if you're in that age group, 18 to 35, go ahead and apply.
That is correct, sir. We're looking for both young men and young women.
Okay, and just maybe one other part in terms of the application process. They fill out the application form. What sort of information would they need to supply? Do they need to send a back reference, blood sample, a job letter, a reference, a picture, a copy of the passport? I mean, what sort of initial things would they be expected to send when they're making the initial application?
Okay, the application form is fairly self-explanatory. It tells you exactly what we're looking for or what you need to fill in. One thing with application forms, you can never provide too much information. I would say don't take for granted that the person reading the application form knows who you are. It's your opportunity to sell yourself on that application form. Again, remembering that you're competing for one of 10 vacancies, you need to make yourself as marketable as possible. Okay. One of the things that we are asking for in the application form, though, is a photograph.
Okay. Full face photograph?
Full face.
Okay, yeah. Because I could send you a good photograph of me up on a crow's nest, but that's about it, right? Won't be but you are right. You are sort of putting your good foot forward in this instance.
Yes.
Let's just follow. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Something as simple as you know how to use Microsoft Word, Excel, and Outlook. I mean, it's a given that people do know how to use those nowadays, especially if you're coming out of high school. But a lot of people fail to actually mention that they are basic Word proficient or Office proficient on their application forms, and it can mean the difference between you and somebody else being shortlisted. So list all of the skills, all the experience, whether it's personal or professional. I mean, especially with the job that we're doing, that we're applying for, or the recruits that we're looking for now. Yes, you can pick up formal certification for boat handling. It's available at a variety of sites or services, but it's not commonly known. So unless you're actually going into professional yachting or professional charter boat services, you wouldn't really know that. But you could have been operating a vessel from the time you were 16, and you're now 25. So you have local maritime experience or local waters experience.
Yeah, I think some of us can quickly think to our cousins or former classmates who are more comfortable on a rough, day, in the North Sound or on the bank than some of us are seated in a air-conditioned comfort, room with just the TV on. But anyway,
it's actually a good point that you raised, because we will have a lot of interest from people who want to join us, but they also have to realize that what they're getting into, it's not a cushy job, to use colloquialism.
Yes.
Those people who do fishing for a livelihood, or who spend a lot of time on the water, know the effects that the sun, the sea, the environment itself, the havoc that it raises on the body over a period of time. And it's not a job that you're going to come. It's not a job. It's actually a calling, if you will.
It's a calling. Yeah. I mean, I guess you've heard it. I've heard it. Some of us are born with sea legs, as it were.
Yep.
And there are those of us that after 2 or 3 hours on the water, we get back, we feel like we're walking. There are those of us that could be 2 or 3 days at the sea. When we get back to the shore after a good extended fishing trip, there's no difference. You don't feel any difference. You just already accustomed and acclimated to it and that environment. With that, the deadline then for this initial round of potential applicants, when is that deadline, sir?
That'll be on the 9th of August.
Okay, so I don't know what today is, what, 29th of July?
Yeah. Yep, today is the 29th, so 10 days.
Yeah, I'll give it to you to decide how long that is between now and then. if it is the 29th, and you got 31 days and 9th of July, okay, so not long. It's almost tomorrow if you think about it. Right?
Yeah, you blink and it'll be here.
Yep. If we could then maybe ask a number of things, but two things in particular that we wanted, if it's okay to ask of you to expound a little further on initially. You talked about, some of the things that the successful 10, that initial fold of 10 during their 8-week sort of basic training, what that's going to look like. Are they going to be sort of housed in barracks somewhere, like some places, or what's that 8-week period looking like as they go through the different aspects of the training?
Well, prior to the pandemic, we would have wanted them to have spent at least 1 week living on board a vessel. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, one of the plans is to actually have a vessel that's able to conduct extended range patrols. And by extended range, we mean being out at sea for over 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, preparation for what you will be doing in real life, training should mimic that. And part of the intention was to actually we have a vessel that persons could have stayed on board. Again, the current situation has caused us to rethink that, but at some point in future classes that will be factored in there. But getting back to what you can expect for the courses starting in October. Again, we mentioned it, open water safety and survival, remembering that this is a basic training course. So we'll be providing you with if you will, an introductionary exposure to the various topics.
Mm-hmm.
How we've structured the course, if you will, within the Coast Guard, you're going to have various occupation specialty areas. And those specialty areas, you will all start as... They come with 3 levels, level 3, level 2, level 1, level 3 being the lowest. And we're looking at it as an apprenticeship, journeyman, and finally, you've mastered that particular skill or that occupational area. So open water safety and survival, for example, that's giving you exposure to the environment, teaching you how to, basically save yourself should you fall overboard, or save somebody else if they're in the water. Seamanship skills, again, the basics. So, the different parts of the vessel, navigation basics, knot tying, the basics of, if you were going out on a boat on a Sunday with your uncle, it would be the basics that they should have run over with you in terms of what to do, man overboard, distress, also the rules of the road. Not a lot of people realize that the sea has rules, just like the road that you drive on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's giving our persons, our team, an introduction into what those are, and also how to enforce them. Because one of the things that the Coast Guard is looking to do is actually bring some regulation to both private vessel operations and commercial, and more inspections around the commercial operations of vessels.
Mm-hmm.
Vessel safety is one of the huge areas that the Coast Guard will be looking at. The Port Authority regulations and laws actually are fairly specific to what vessels should have on board them. So what we're looking to do now is actually increase the enforcement of that. But not only the enforcement, the education around it. You can't enforce if you don't educate, I don't think. But a lot of that equipment, if you will, and the training that goes with vessel operations, we've seen sadly a lot of instances where persons have gotten in difficulties or haven't come back because they lacked basic safety equipment on board their vessels. Or they panicked while out there, or they just didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, that training and education, right?
Correct.
with that, then would we then eventually, as a jurisdiction, look at the licensing and registration of vessels?
It's something that's actually been highlighted in the past that's needed, and it's definitely one of the endeavors that we're pushing to move ahead with. It's a win-win for everybody. I'm sure that we will get pushback from certain avenues in terms of, we've been doing this for years, it's in our blood and everything else. But what we've found when we've conducted some training exercises, people who've been using vessels for years, something as simple as, you're in the North Sound and you have a vessel coming directly straight at you. When you say, well, do you turn left or do you turn right or do you turn to port to starboard? You'd be surprised at the number of people who don't know the proper way to turn if you have two vessels coming straight at you.
Yeah.
And there are actually regulations and guidelines around what you should and should not do. So again, bringing all of that to the forefront and making it second nature, if you will, because, Cayman has a very strong maritime history. A lot of people have private vessels that they go out on weekends, or some may not go out every weekend, but they go out at least once a month or once every 3 months. So general boating safety is something that has, it needs to be observed by everybody in order to save lives.
Yeah. And I'll commend you for that, and certainly endeavor to assist in public education, because it is helpful, as you said, and can enforce if you don't educate. But that'll be for future discussions. But if we could then ask, the fast forward, the Coast Guard is up and operational, and unfortunately someone is in distress. How would a call be made? We know sometimes people will call Port Security on their radios, their marine radios. If you're on land, you'll call 911. Going forward, how is that system going to is expected to work?
Well, if you're at sea, you should have a VHF radio, and the primary hailing frequency for VHF is channel 16. If you are, if you're out there and you're within cell coverage of the island, you can dial 911. Those would probably be the two most advisable means of getting in touch with. What we've established is our Operations and Rescue Coordination Center, which again is part of our responsibility under the IMO. Our Rescue and Operations Coordination Center is basically responsible for coordinating all of the operations of our vessels when they're out on operations, or coordinating the response with partner, call it stakeholders, if you will, on search and rescue operations. So that will be both government assets as well as private citizens who have volunteered to assist us, or vessels from other countries who depending on where the call for the distress calls come in, who's closer to whom.
Yeah, how the resources are deployed. We've got a final break to take, Mr. Scotland. We won't impose any more beyond 2 o'clock unless you wish. But when we come back, could we just ask maybe finally a repeat of sort of the recruitment drive and how to apply, but then maybe talk to some of the possible career options and the like. Got a couple of questions for you when we come back. Promise you won't give you too much trouble. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
No problem.
Green Turtle. Modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
The The Wharf is your only waterfront breakfast and lunch atmosphere along the shoreline. Starts at 7 a.m. with freshly squeezed juices, hot coffee, and your farm fresh eggs.
The unique Sunset Happy Hour and dinner ambiance is your obvious choice for your waterfront dining. See you soon for salsa and boogie nights at the Wharf.
Follow us on Facebook to keep in the loop of all the happenings and come and join us at the all-day waterfront experience on the 7 Mile Beach.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Mommy, have you been taking your medication?
No, I think I forgot to pick it up.
Your doctor prescribed it for a reason, so you should be taking it regularly.
I know, TD. Thanks for the reminder.
If you are elderly or vulnerable and need your prescription delivered to your home, contact the Health Services Authority Pharmacy at 949-8600. Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky or call 949-8600.
According to the standards in public life law, which of these individuals are required to file a declaration of interest? A. Members of governing bodies of statutory authorities and government companies. B. Chief officers and deputy chief officers. C. Government department heads and their deputies. D. CEOs of statutory authorities and government companies. Or E. Members of the Legislative Assembly. The answer is all of them. To see the full list of individuals required under the law to submit a declaration, visit www.standardsandpubliclifecommission.ky. The deadline for persons to submit their declaration of interest in accordance with the standards in public life law is 30th July 2020.
But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. And again, publicly, thanks to Commandant for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, Mr. Robert Scotland, for joining us today to talk about the recruitment drive. Ends on the 9th of August. The basic training, as he shared, starting in the 1st of October, or the first full week in October for 8 weeks. Mr. Scotland, between now and 2 p.m., maybe we can ask a couple of questions and not just thank you for your service and helping us to understand, but maybe get a couple of more other things of interest. With that in mind, sir, it's by my clock, 1:51. And if we want to sync our watches, we can see where we go, and I won't go too far beyond that. With that in mind, the successful 10, when they complete their 8 weeks of basic training, how is that? You referenced earlier, they'll be sort of, not necessarily seconded, but maybe attached to some of the operational areas and understanding where and within and what their Coast Guard looks like. What would that be like for another year or so within the requisite areas, within a week? I mean, how would that work?
Okay, so once a recruit graduates from basic training, they'll be attached to what we're calling the C detachment. Mm-hmm. Within the C detachment, there are various occupational specialty areas. Within the Coast Guard itself, there are various occupational specialty areas. Part of that is patrol vessel crew member, tactical boarding officer, underwater specialist, mechanical and engineering specialist, coxswain, boat accident investigator, the operations and rescue coordination center operator, Coast Guard trainer, and the clerical and administrative support. Mm-hmm. As we said before, each one of those fields will start as an apprentice, and you will work your way up to basically being a master of each of those.
Right, 3, 2, 1 levels that you referenced.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So you will have some Coast Guard members, or coasties, as some people call them, who have 2 occupational specialty areas, and you will have others that have 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
The more occupational specialty areas you have, the more senior in rank you become. So what we're doing is we're following the Royal Navy, the Royal Navy, I guess, rank, if you will, for non-commissioned officers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in keeping with what's used regionally by other Coast Guards. That way we have a commonality of language around the region and those that we work with. So you're a Coast Guard. You start off as a Coast Guard recruit. You work your way to what's called an ordinary seaman. Then you become an able seaman. Then you become a leading seaman. Then you become a petty officer, chief petty officer, warrant officer.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the non-commissioned ranks within the Coast Guard. And the non-commissioned officers who make up the bulk or the workforce of the Coast Guard are what we call technical subject matter experts.
Mm-hmm.
You have engineers, your level 3 or your class 3 engineer, mechanical engineer specialist they will have the basic engineering knowledge to make sure that the engine starts, gets you where it needs to go and gets you back safely to the base. Whereas your level 1 or your class 1 mechanic will be able to, I wouldn't say strip the engine in their sleep, but they can come close to it.
Pretty much, and they better be able to.
Yes. So if you will, your class 3 engineers will be working on the vessels, making sure that they can troubleshoot whatever pops up while we're at sea. Your class 1 engineer is actually the person that's going to be back at base working during the day, is making sure that preventative maintenance is conducted on the engines. Engines are rebuilt, refitted, ensuring that we can maximize the full operational life out of that engine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. And some of this, I know if they're listening, they will understand exactly the language that you share. Could we, though, in the interest of time, maybe ask you earlier talking about the recruitment, the selection, the interview, and the like, and you reference, perhaps pulling from the Cadet Corps, people with military experience. So two questions, if I may. To what extent military service, military experience will be sort of weighing in on the recruitment?
The prior experience or exposure to a disciplined organization or a disciplined lifestyle will be very, very beneficial, not only to us, but also to the person coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The Coast Guard is going to be a uniformed and disciplined organization, and by that we mean that there, in other professions, you have the luxury of questioning why you're going to be told to do certain things, and then you can argue or you can agree to disagree on why things have to be done a certain way. Within the Coast Guard, because we're dealing with people's lives and you're responding to life and death situations, a lot of times the luxury of time and the back and forth debating will result in casualties occurring. So having that level of discipline and commitment is definitely a benefit to both ourselves and to the person coming in. One of the prerequisites or one of the attractive features is, and we put it in the application, is prior service within the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps or another officer training candidate school type entity.
Okay.
That especially within the Cadet Corps with the maritime cadets, they would have received basic exposure to the maritime life already, so that they would, if you will, they would have a leg up on other persons coming in.
Yeah.
That being said, what we're really looking for in our applicants or candidates or recruits is keenness and desire to work and to be part of the team and to contribute. You can train and provide exposure and experience to people. What you can't provide is that desire and that willingness to work and that drive that's there. So again, this is a basic recruiting. So you don't have to have the experience, but if you have the desire and the want and the drive to be there, that works in your favor probably 3 times as much as coming in with prior experience but not having the drive or thinking, okay, well, this is just a job. It's a paycheck. If you come in with that mentality, your mind is going to be changed pretty quickly. I mean, when you're called to go out on a search and rescue in seas that are 8 to 10 foot, it's a gut check.
So, Mr. Scotland, with that in mind, then, given the well, to what extent then is the military application and the military sort of approach going to weigh in on the operation of our Coast Guard?
Well, the Coast Guard is not a military entity, and that's actually written into our law. We cannot be considered a military organization of any format. We are a law enforcement organization. But what we have done is we've taken the organizational structure and the discipline that's within a military entity, and that's what we're trying to instill into our culture, if you will.
No, I gather, and again, maybe this, maybe a discussion that we should have at a higher level. But I was just looking at it and understanding, as I put on the table initially, I'll be a very willing champion and cheerleader for a Coast Guard, right? But based on what we've heard and what you just shared, potentially, are we at risk of alienating, or at the very least, discriminating against, or even discouraging, or sort of denying some Caymanians who didn't form part of the militia and other jurisdictions, didn't form part of the Cadet Corps here, weren't part of, sort of OCS and other places, but they're probably some of the best miners and would be some of the most disciplined sailors that the Coast Guard could recruit.
No, I understand that concern totally. As I said, it's about what we're looking for is persons who, with the greatest drive, zeal, desire to be a part of the Coast Guard. So, as I said before, you could have been a cadet with, joined it at 13 and left at 18, but you don't have that drive and that desire. The Coast Guard won't be for you, versus an 18-year-old who loves the water, who loves to give back to their community, who has demonstrated a real zeal to be there.
Okay. Well, I guess it comes back to that selection and recruitment. Mr. Scotland, we do have the news. I'm told that you are more than amenable to talk with great passion and enthusiasm. We do have a caller who has some, contribution that we would like to hear. So with your acquiescence, we'll take the break and we'll come back and we'll talk some more. Please, as we say, we're grateful for your time here. We do not wish, in this instance anyway, to make you uncomfortable. So thank you very much for being so gracious with your time. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The young athletes of Stingray Swim Club are looking to gain the support of the Cayman Islands community ahead of the team's annual Swimathon event, which takes place Saturday, August 1st. The Swimathon is Stingray's largest fundraiser of the year. This year, the Swimathon will be held in conjunction with the team's annual awards banquet. Both events will be held on August 1st at Barker's Beach in West Bay. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Democratic U.S. presidential contender Joe Biden has promised to spend tens of billions of dollars to help people of color overcome economic inequality if he wins the election in November. In a speech in his hometown of Wilmington, Mr. Biden promised to boost opportunities for Black, Latino, and Native American businesses. He accused U.S. President Donald Trump of stoking the flames of racism. And 7 babies were stillborn at Harare Center Hospital in Zimbabwe on Monday night after urgent treatment was delayed because of staffing issues. 2 doctors have confirmed. Nurses are on strike nationwide because of a lack of personal protective equipment, PPE, and other concerns, and the maternity wards were overwhelmed. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm very grateful to the Commandant of the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, Mr. Robert Scotland. So thanks again for sharing some more time and for allowing us to perhaps at least field this caller and maybe, allow you not to feel hostage, hopefully. It's a comfortable seating. Coming to our studios is hard to get out, huh? Let's go to the phone, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I just heard Commandante Scotland talking about saying that I think it was Europe made reference to some training scenario where he was talking with some, I guess might have been young folk that had spent a lot of time in the water and didn't know which way to turn if another boat was approaching. So, and my mind went back, I guess he probably never heard the navigational melody. Are you familiar with that one, Mr. Scotland?
Yes, sir, I am.
How does it go? When two satellites I see ahead, I turn my helm to show my red?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's that. So clearly you have the knowledge and the experience, but what we're saying is that we're not actually seeing a lot of that, if you will, with current boat users. And what we want to do is ensure that everybody knows that. Again, we've seen instances where, using that same reference, instead of one turning to port and the other turning to starboard, you have both vessels turning to the same side and colliding with each other, which should never take place. But
there's more to that melody, I think. And there's another stanza to that melody that takes care of that scenario that you just said. Anyway, but it all comes back to training, and you talked about training. And I don't know how long you've been in the waters around here, but when the Goldfield was being brought back here, and you spoke about training, that was one of the scenarios that she was brought back here to fulfill. But sadly, there was not enough CI-sensitive guidance in the guidance structure that brought her back here, and she lies now, or what's left of her, at the end of well, forget anyway in the North Sound there. At the end, forget the section underwater. But I'm hopeful that, and I think you mentioned of maybe getting a training craft that you don't go in the route of getting a 35 Bertram or something like that, 35-foot Bertram or a 55-foot Bertram, or be it whatever it is, and put these people through training on that kind of craft, because they would never ever experience the you want to call it the thrill or the excitement of sitting on a wheel box in a nor'wester, or sitting or watching the jib topsail. making sure it doesn't tremble. So, and I believe there are probably still opportunities if whenever you're looking for a training craft to have something of that nature. I mean, it would be more or less a motor sailor.
Well, sir, what we actually intend to do is have our officers work or train on the vessels that they will be using on a daily basis. Again, you train for reality. So what you're doing in training is really and truly what you're going to be doing on a daily basis on the vessels. We can't discount providing them with the exposure and the experience that you're talking about with your traditional sailing craft. And that is something that as they progress in their time and their length of time with us, they'll be afforded that opportunity. But in order to have them where they're needed and performing to the standard required on the vessels that they're using on a daily basis, the training vessels, if you will be the standard vessels that they're using.
I mean, and I just a short scenario. What happens if do you think they would have acquired the whatever nomenclature you want to put out, or the courage or the expertise to, if they got caught in a 45, 50, 60, 80, 90 mile an hour wind in one of those small boats, and I guess it would be a small boat, to let's say to do what some of our forefathers did on the Jimson, the 45-foot Jimson, in a hurricane.
Yes, sir. I mean, as we said before, what we plan to do is train for reality. Part of that training includes navigation, not only using modern electronic GPS, but also, going back to what our forefathers had to do, navigate with sextants, use the stars, use the positions during the day and during the night. Again, electronics fail. And when you are 20 miles offshore or 30 miles offshore,
you can't call Bob Zora anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, I will let you go. But I think that there are some of the things. If you really want to build a Coast Guard, as you're calling it, and I kind of worry about saying a Coast Guard and not putting any military aspects or connotations on it. How that's going to turn out, but anyway. I'll leave you with that, but I'd like to talk with you sometime soon, because I think there are opportunities that still available to where these training crafts could be the real thing for Cayman.
Okay, sir. I look forward to that.
All right. As usual, thank you very much, for it. And I think, Mr. Scotland, as I listen to the caller, I'm quickly drawn to be mindful of other similar gentlemen, not only for their wartime service, not only their participation as seafarers or the like, but the expertise that we still have. Some as his contemporaries, and some who could perhaps even to this day, be a few years his junior. Maybe we'll get to that point. Could we, in inviting you for your closing thoughts, maybe ask two things. One, to remind us of the recruitment, and then secondly, based on a couple of just observations as you were on, you shared earlier that part of the discussion initially was to have, the recruits spend at least 3 days at sea, but because of the scenario we're facing, probably not as easy to accommodate, if at all possible, to sort of separate the watchers from the doers. If you look at the Royal Military that was here recently, they still posted at sea. If there's a way to revisit that and maybe have that part of the training process, so that future classes, can also have said they did the same thing that the initial class, but also to help us to appreciate that he who presents on paper may not exactly be she who can do the job.
Yes, sir. I think you may have gotten my references mixed up. I said what we're planning is a vessel that's capable of doing 72-hour deployment.
Yes.
What we were looking at for basic training was having a scenario where they spend 5 days basically on base, if you will. They would be allowed to go home in the afternoons, but they would have to be back by a certain time at night. Stay overnight, wake up, make their bunks, square themselves away, out for PT. As close to maintaining a watch as we could possibly give, because as you know, you may be back at base, and at 3 o'clock in the morning a call comes in for service. You need to be able to deploy. So it's having your kit ready to go, having, again, training for reality. It makes no sense to have a training standard that is less than reality, and when the officers are put in a position where they need to perform, when you're in that position, you revert to your training, and if your training is not up to par, you're not going to perform to the standard that you need to and that your country needs you to.
Right. Well, Mr. Scotland, thank you for spending the afternoon with us, and certainly invite you in at any point to help to educate, inform, perhaps just advise or listening public. Thank you very much, sir. And as you shared, the recruitment, the recruitment drive ends at the 9th of August, so not that far from now. But thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, and thank you for the listening audience. Just in closing, I'd like to remind everybody that, yes, we are looking for young Caymanians, male and female, between the ages of 18 and 35. To come and join the Coast Guard, be a part of our history. If you have an enthusiasm for being on the water, be it fishing, jet skis, power boating, all of that experience, all that exposure helps. Again, in filling out your applications, don't think that any item is too small to leave out on that application form. And we look forward to seeing you in the Coast Guard.
All right. Thank you very much, Commandant. And looking forward to engage with you further. To our listeners, we'll pause and take a break. When we come back, some open line for the remaining moments. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a not-for-profit, member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. We have an all-in expense ratio of less than 1%, over 20,000 members, and $490 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s, and today we are still strong, secure, and are here for our employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or require further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce
Hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane. Debris includes roofing materials, tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles and must not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you very, 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 very much for joining us. And we have some open line for the remaining 12 minutes or so of today's show. It's a Wednesday. I don't know about you, but boy, it certainly doesn't feel like a Wednesday. Maybe it's a Friday, but it's a Wednesday. And as we invite you to share with us, reminder that tomorrow you can listen to the Business Buzz and then come back for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. And again, a special public thanks to Commandant Robert Scotland for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard for sharing an extended time with us. For those 18 to 35, those Caymanians, male and female alike, who may have an interest, they're looking for their first round of 10 recruits to join them. If you like the sea and you find you're probably more comfortable and at home on even a little dinghy out in the North Sound or pounding along the shoreline somewhere, then you would be seated in a very comfortable air-conditioned space. Well, you know when you like the sea. You just know when you do. Some of us enjoy being on the boat more than on a plane. A smooth plane ride, maybe a little bit of a hassle for us, but the chop and the roll of the seas is just soothing. Now, it's more to it than that. It's no fun and games, but certainly is a wonderful way to serve a country. Let's go to the phones, though. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
How are you today?
As you doing, I doing. Okay.
Yeah. So we're blessed.
I'm fine.
All right. Okay. Now share with us, man.
Yes. First, Dwayne, let's start with the most important issue, which is we come in May 2021 in an election. And I don't think by that time this issue of coronavirus will be going. I mean, still the effect of it and some issues about it will be still there. My suggestion to the Legislation Assembly, to the Governor, to put off the election for 1 year. I think it is good for the country. Now we're not in time to be going to vote. It's not time to be, it is a difficult time in everybody. I think it is very hard for people. It's not going to be something easy. So I think the suggestion is extend this term for this Legislation Assembly for a year. I think by voting in the Legislation Assembly, by order from the England or something, we have to find a way that, because this election will not be fair for some people in this health situation to be going to election. That's the first thing. The second thing, Dwayne, is this issue of insurance company.
Okay, before you go, since they're so disconnected, could we just pause 1 second, go back? So your suggestion, or the suggestion that we've heard from other quarters, that instead of the election being, I want to repeat it back to make sure I didn't misunderstand you. The election is now on the calendar for next year, May. Even the date was announced. I don't remember what it was now, but you're saying to put it off for another year. So instead of next year, May, make it the following year, May 2022. Is that what you're saying?
Because, Dwayne, truly, now we have a government formed from two parties and some independent. I think we have the government respond very good. I think the Premier did a good job. I don't support the Premier if he's wrong, but So far, he did very good.
Okay, so what is the justification then for postponing it, whether 6 months or a year or 2 years? I mean, a year from now.
I mean, at least, if not a year, have 6 months. Extend for this legislation assembly after
Right.
May 2001, 6 months,
Yeah.
until we come out of this economic crisis, corona crisis, and all of these crises. Because if we come in this crisis to change a government and to elect, this country will be in a bad shape.
How so? Could we not be in a better shape? I mean, we could be worse, but could we not also be better? I mean, there's no.
We need government to be stabilized. Stabilized. I don't mean like people raising against it. No, I mean stabilized. I mean they know what is going on to continue the good job they are doing now, and to until the country and everybody is safe from this coronavirus. We can't just send people to go stand to elect a new members of legislation assembly, and this coronavirus danger still in effect. I mean, I don't see logic for not extending the time for this legislation assembly. I think most of members doing a good job, even though some of them not doing nothing. But the majority is doing.
Right? All right. Let me ask you then, as an alternative to what you've suggested, what if the UK government says, okay, we're not going to extend the term for the elected government, but instead we're going to step in and govern the country. Maybe we'll start, by the end of the year. Maybe we'll start, as you said, at the expiry of next year. So what would you say to that? The UK government implements direct rule and decides to legislate for us and gets rid of its legislative assembly and do what it did in the Turks some years ago. How would you feel about that?
No, I object to that because first the people of this country are electing people to represent them in the legislation assembly. We have a democracy, we have a government, we have a premier. If it's about the legal term of the premier, they can't extend it. So we do the shovel the government, like put somebody from the members of PPM, a new member of PPM to become premier, and maybe Mr. McLaughlin become deputy premier or something until his time finished. I mean, there is a way we have to do something because this crisis of corona, I speak about this early because I want to open the discussion to extend the term for this legislation assembly, this government, for a year. We have a good trust in Mr. McLaughlin and his government. We have trust in the legislation assembly. They did a good job in this coronavirus. The most danger thing happened to this country. They did a good job.
Okay, so let me then ask then, do you think then that from what you shared, and basically going to go on what you have shared publicly as you said, right? So the same government, the same premier, the same cabinet, the same 19 people who've been elected and aligned as we have seen since the last election. Up until the year ended last year, there was some disquiet about the port project and the government's handling of the project. That same government now, you were saying you're very much in favor of extending their term at least 6 months to a year.
Project, there's nothing happened yet. This government will not build the port. Their time
No,
finished.
we're not talking about building the port, we're talking about the people that were proposing it, right? It's the same people, so you were not happy with them then, but you would be happy with them now continuing on for another extended term. what
This
change?
is necessary. There is necessary things have to happen. More important than anything else. The health of the people of this country is very important. And this coronavirus will not end up by the end of the year. You know, I am very sure of that. The cruise ship will not come until the end, maybe after May next year. Maybe we'll not see cruise ship. So there is economic crisis. There is this country in crisis, economic crisis. And to put a burden in it to elect a new house, new members, I think it is waste of time and money. I think the wise thing extend for this legislation assembly another year and extend for the government another year, even if though the premier can't be premier after May, then we can like reshuffle the government and put a new premier from the same party who is in control, and I think that will stabilize the country, Dwayne. And I am here calling today, and members of legislation assembly, members of the community, anyone in this country, to open discussion about this, because this is good for the country. This is what is this country need this time. And
well, listen, let's pick this up tomorrow. God's willing, you know, I'll be in the studio, we can chat. You put something on the table, I believe, and, you know, so much has transpired, but when His Excellency, others in the studio, we asked about, you know, extending the election. Well, the date is set. We heard the rumors about it, so now it's good that, you know, someone like you who obviously has that level of access now to publicly put it on the table. What they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. So thank you, Anchit, for sharing that with us. We'll see what, you know, and how it leads. But thanks again to the Commandant for coming in. Thank you all for listening. I invite you to join us tomorrow for more talk today right after the midday news. But starting the day off with the Business Buzz in the morning as you engage with Ms. Sabrina. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.